Hello, I'm Vernon Billy, the CEO and Executive Director of the California School Boards Association. Thank you for joining us for the latest edition of CSBA's Education Insights video series. The Education Insights video series empowers governing board members to address the most pressing issues affecting California's public schools. Our experts provide you with background, tips, and yes, unique insights to improve your governance practice and strengthen your community's public schools. Today's video covers a topic of great concern to all Californians: how to prepare our schools for emergency scenarios like the wildfires that have ravaged our state. In addition, CSBA is introducing legislation to provide financial relief for districts that suffered damage or lost attendance due to the recent wildfires. The hope is that through these and other efforts, we can provide meaningful support and assist you in your work to prepare for emergencies. We'll be sure to keep you updated on our progress. In the meantime, we hope you can learn from the education leaders and emergency response experts who have grappled with the effects of California's recent natural disasters.
California's scenery is part of its legendary appeal, from sun-kissed beaches to snow-capped mountains, from verdant valleys to mystical deserts, and from bustling cities to the agricultural heartland. It's the grandeur of its landscape that makes the state truly golden. Yet, this breathtaking natural beauty can also be the source of great tragedy. In 2017, wildfires of unprecedented scope ravaged the state. Few places suffered more than Santa Rosa, a town of 175,000 people tucked into the Sonoma County wine country. On the night of October 8th, strong winds pushed the Tubbs fire, ultimately the most destructive in the state's history, toward the town. Before it was extinguished, the blaze incinerated more than 2,800 homes, 5,600 buildings, and left more than $1.2 billion of damage in Santa Rosa alone. This is the story of how the area's central institution, Santa Rosa City Schools, responded in a time of crisis, and what all schools should know in order to prepare for a natural disaster.
It had a significant impact to the operation of the district. I mean, this is a fire that came really out of nowhere, and it didn't get over with for a long time. It was like almost 20 days before they had it fully contained. So that created all kinds of issues for us. We had parents wanting their children to go back into school in the non-impacted areas. We lost an elementary school, we lost our farm, and the production buildings on that as well. So it took a period of time for us to let things settle down, and the board had to act as a unified group of people with an understanding that they understood what had to be done. And by that I mean they understood that there was due process we had to go through, cleaning of the facilities after the fires were put out, changing of air filters as well. I mean, there was a big mechanical process we had to go through as a board. Two of our board members actually lost their homes, which made an impact to the board's operation. Not a significant impact because they were there, but in their minds they must have been really worried about what else was going on. So one of the first things we did as a board is we passed a resolution that moved the authority of the board to the board president. So any emergency issues that had to be addressed or quickly addressed were addressed quickly and efficiently, because we couldn't depend upon the ability to get together 7 board members on short notice for an emergency discussion. So when it comes to things how it impact the district, that we have a good solid board and a good solid administration. And we were most fortunate that we were both available at the same time to handle this issue.
One of the things that impacted the school district was that, first of all, when the fires came, this was Sunday night into first thing Monday morning, we had to immediately determine what we were going to do with school with very little information. We knew the fires had begun. We did not know the magnitude yet of the damage and what was happening out in the actual fires. What we learned very quickly through the network of mutual aid, police, Office of Emergency Service contacts, that it was a pretty advanced fire. The phone calls that I got during the night were, number one, Can you open evacuation centers in some of your schools? Another call I got was, could you mobilize buses to begin evacuation out in the areas that were being burned into these evacuation centers, which then meant for me, I had to mobilize staff. Again, this is between about 3 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the morning, the night that the fires are happening. I can say that we were able to get an evacuation center at one of our high schools opened by 8 o'clock in the morning.
A couple of our schools were opened up as evacuation centers. One of the first things that happened was that we had to take an influx of a lot of people in a short period of time. I believe we had almost 1,000 people staying at one of our high schools. The first busload of people that got delivered out of the fire area were all medically fragile people. Never expected that, didn't understand that, but staffs rallied, and even though they were worried about what was happening to their home, they also were very concerned about what was happening to these people who were medically fragile. I think that the strength of the district is the cooperation and participation and how we work together as a team. And the superintendent and her cabinet, our board president and our board works really hard to make things work, do things we never expected to have to do before. Bus transportation, opening up our kitchens so that we can provide hot meals to people who are evacuated out. Coordination with the National Guard, getting medical supplies to people in our care. These aren't things you would naturally think about a school would do, but the flexibility of the board and the cooperation of the administration and all of our employees made it happen. It was a difficult time for some of our employees as well. 97 of our employees lost their homes in this tragedy.
So this is where our community has been so wonderful in so many different ways, from monetary resources to donations. But another resource that our community provided from a number of different organizations, from faith-based to business to community organizations, is they actually provided childcare during those last week and a half or two for parents that needed to get back to work to be able to have a place for their children to go.
One of the things that school boards are supposed to do, and board members on those school boards, is really participate in community leadership. Become part of the community that we serve. More than just the schools and the students and the parents, but look at the entire community. What we did right as a board and as an administration was we had a lot of political connections in our county. We had good relationships with the Board of Supervisors, excellent relationship with the City Council. And in times of crisis, all these governmental agencies have to coordinate their activities together, have to be able to get along and trust each other. Those kind of trusting relationships are so very important to do your job you got to do, which is to help people out there in need. That's what I would recommend for school boards in general, to reach out to the partner districts in your area, reach out to the Board of Supervisors and the City Council, and make those lasting relationships that you're going to draw upon in times of emergency.
Emergency plans are extremely important. You must have them prepared, you must practice what's in your emergency preparedness plans. On the other side of your emergency plan, I would also say you need to have a networking and communications plan. And here's why I say this. The things that happened in those first 24 hours weren't in the emergency plan. They were in my networking plan. And that is, who have I built relationships with in the community to be able to call upon in order to make the decisions that we made that day. I think it's extremely important that you get to know the fire chief, the police chief, any county organization, city organizations, so that at any moment you can call them if you need assistance. And that's exactly what happened. They called me, I called them, and together we were able to get immediate action into place that very next day. So I think that's the thing. You as a superintendent, it's extremely important, first of all, to have a strong governance team that you can count on and work together. And the second is, who are the people in your network that you are communicating with on a constant basis, and know that you can help each other out in times of crisis.
That you have to have a disaster plan that is real. A lot of times school districts get involved with creating plans and they shelve them, academic plans and reorganization plans and so forth, and that's kind of one of the common jokes amongst board members. We do all this work and it gets in a 3-ring binder and we put it on a shelf. A disaster plan could be seen sometimes that way. We followed our disaster plan carefully, and I would encourage other school boards to do the same, to go through and review and make sure everybody knows what their place and what their role is. Then you don't have people stepping on each other's toes. You have better coordination of services, quicker response times, and much more help to the students and the parents in the district. When do we open up our schools, and why can't we open up the schools now, and so forth. We need to have a good strategic plan when it comes to disaster preparedness. And in our case, we're all prepared for earthquakes. That's what we're expecting. But who would guess that a fire on a Sunday night would wipe out so many homes? We lost over 6,000 homes in Sonoma County, in Santa Rosa proper. And it just seems that you have to be prepared for those impacts. And there's also those intangible impacts, not students who have seen things they never should have seen, some barefoot running out of a burning house. This conjures up just terror. And so we've provided a lot of counseling services for our students and also their teachers who are also involved, and also classified employees and administrators, to make it available to them. A disaster plan has to be well-rounded, also needs to be robust, and it should be reviewed annually. I think it's important for districts to know what their liabilities are. When it came to the facilities that were smoke damaged, we replaced over 3,000 filters in all the different facilities on campuses and offices such as here and everywhere. But what's really important is to know what your coverage is. Are you covered adequately insurance-wise? Are you going to be able to rebuild? What resources is going to be provided to you to reopen your campuses? One of the problems we have when we're working with our burned out site, where we lost one of our elementary schools, is the toxic level of chemicals in the ground. And FEMA has come by and scraped them all away, and the tests are looking really good. The only trouble is they don't really have numbers for how it impacts kids. Most of the toxic information is about adults who have different kind of processing systems and so forth. So I think what we need to do is know what our coverages are ahead of time to see if we have adequate insurance coverage. That'd be my best advice right now to somebody getting prepared for a disaster.
Superintendents, principals from other districts who have suffered from wildfire or mudslides have contacted me, mainly just asking for advice. What kinds of communications did we send out? Could we get copies of your letters? What ways did you communicate? And really just a sounding board. I think many times we're in positions where we just need someone to listen to us as we process, and I think many times they've been calling just to process, to have assurances again that they're doing the right thing. Because once again, the emergency plan doesn't necessarily provide a game plan for how to deal with crises such as these.
The biggest impact to our district right now is the unknown future that we're going to face. Most of the students in the fire area, of which there was about 700 children, were living in the burned area now and now are considered homeless. But what happens after summer? Will they come back to our district or will they relocate? And that's a big issue for us because that carries with it a significant financial impact to our district. We lost our attendance. So we're working with CSBA on sponsored bills that will hold us harmless during that period of time of adjustment, because we can't tell how many teachers we're going to need come fall. We have no ability to figure out the number of students that will be with us. Will parents be relocating their children out of the area? We didn't lose that many students in our district so far. I think it's around almost 500 students, but it seems like a large number, and it is a major impact, but we aren't sure if that's it or there will be more to come.
One of the ways that the state can help is by passing the bill, the AB 2228 bill. It is critical at this time that we have some assurances about ADA protection. Right now we have lost over 500 students, so we're going into next year uncertain how many students will still not come back to the district, how many more students may leave. Housing is very difficult here in Santa Rosa now since the fire. And so that protection that that bill would afford us would be highly, highly, highly beneficial to us. Another thing that I've thought about in terms of state organizations is that schools are not naturally thought of to bring to the table in emergency situations. And I think when Office of Emergency Services or CAL FIRE or any of the state organizations are meeting together when there's a crisis or an emergency, don't forget to bring school district leaders to the table. We're the place, schools are the place that people come to for stability and safety. So we need to be at the table in order to be able to provide that.
School districts have large depositories of data, grades, information, IEPs, everything, and are typically located in one centralized location. We actually did a lot of duplicating and moving data out from our district office and made it available off-site to our district, because we were afraid that this building we're sitting in right now is going to be burning, and with it would go all of our history, all of our academic information, and so forth. And this has caused us to relook at how we store data, and we're moving it to the cloud so it will be safe there. But you don't think about that at the time, but when students are getting ready to transfer and they're putting in their applications and they need their transcripts, they got to have the transcripts. And if they aren't available because of damage, what a disaster that would be for their future.
I will tell you that if you use your head, but also mix it with your heart, you'll be okay. You'll come out okay. I think that's one of the important things, is don't get caught up in procedures and rules so much that you forget about the human factor of what's happened in the community.